Hey everyone, this is Chloe over at IGN,
I'm Callie.
and we played the Resident Evil 7 Lantern demo. I played it in the non-VR version.
I played the VR version. This is actually part of the game, unlike the beginning hour demo, which you might have played. So this is our first taste of what Resident Evil 7 will actually be like gameplay-wise.
Right, so the first obvious thing here is it's in first person. This is a big perspective change for Resident Evil.
Wouldn't be the first time for the series to do a perspective change, but this is yet another
Right,
instance
in
of
Resident
it.
Evil 4 we saw it change to third-person action, now we're seeing it change it to first person, and it's very Outlast in a way.
It reminded me a lot of Outlast, especially because you are being chased, and so just it reminded me a lot of that. And so exploring this we were very nope out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting because in VR, the chase actually gave me like a little bit of adrenaline because I was right in it. It was surrounding me. You have
Right.
the headphones and the PSVR on.
So here, we're kind of in like the Baker family house that we saw in the beginning hour demo. I'm calling it right now. There's going to be a giant spider in this house.
Yeah, look at those cobwebs.
Yeah, that's real gross.
There's more. We have more evidence for this theory, but
Yeah, we'll get to
come on.
that soon.
Totally a giant spider.
But
Spooky. This is still like this is such a tense opening sequence.
yeah, and right here we died on purpose just to see what would happen. It reminds us a lot of kind of like PT/Amnesia, like that style of horror game, which is, oh god, a major
Oh,
tonal
she's-
shift for Resident Evil. Yeah, Margaret Baker is not a pleasant lady.
Yeah, so it has that same shift. So here we're
Right.
getting a statue.
Yeah, we're cutting this up a bit, by the way, just to show you the highlights. But here, we kind of have this like traditional Resident Evil style puzzle where you kind of have to put the statuette up on this, against this light and match the shadow up to the shape of a spider, which, again, giant
told
spider. But yeah, it's just really nice to see that Resident Evil 7 is going to have these kind of classic Resident Evil puzzles. Like I'm a huge fan of like the original games, and it's just nice to see it making a return to that.
Right, and it's nice even with the perspective change, and it feels like we said it has that Amnesia PT Outlast sort of feel to it to us, but it's still kind of giving this homage back to classic Resident Evil.
Right. So even though there are things that are different, hopefully we're still going to get kind of, the classic Resident Evil feel.
Yeah. This part was so scary in VR because, like I said earlier, like it's all around you. You have the headphones on, the headset on, and I was actually getting a little claustrophobic in this section because I don't know. We're being chased by this horrible woman. I don't know if she's going to come up behind me, and I felt more trapped in this sequence
Right.
in VR. It was so scary.
Especially because it's such a linear path you have to take. You don't
Yeah.
have as much freedom.
You have no freedom. Whereas in this section, you have a little more freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, pay attention. I was pausing because you have to pay attention to that line. We'll get to that a little later. But here you can see we're kind of edging around to see around. I was just leaning in VR, and I leaned so much that I actually got a warning saying I was out of play area. So it gives you a little bit more control. So this sequence was actually less scary in VR for me. That actually
God.
spooked me so much when we were playing in non-VR. Obviously,
God,
we played
running.
this, recorded this in non-VR.
Right. So they didn't have that lean function.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about what Margaret Baker said back there, referring to accepting a gift. But first, I love this classic nod to old Resident Evil games, the crank, not the note, but
But on the left there.
yeah, on the left you can see that crank, which is kind of like such a classic Resident Evil puzzle.
Yeah, that just goes back to what we were saying earlier with the puzzles, and obviously this is really scary.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like it's a really deliberate nod too. Like I feel like
Yes.
they're reassuring us, like it's going to be like classic Resident Evil games.
yeah, it may look different, it may even feel different in tone, not in tone, but in the way it plays, but it's still Resident Evil.
Right. And so here we have this very obvious like Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of vibe. Just this disgusting dinner table scene.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about, and this is just purely speculation, but just based on Margaret's reference to the gift, some kind of gift that you need to accept, it reminds me a lot of the Las Plagas villagers from Resident Evil 4. We don't really know like what's up with this family. They're not really zombies, but they don't seem quite human either. Clearly, they're super resistant to pain, as that guy just got stabbed in the arm and doesn't care.
Oh, and,
and
this part was so bad in VR too. I leaned so far that I clipped through the chair.
that's so gross. But yeah, so we know that the Los Plagas villagers in Resident Evil 4, they had this parasite that made them sort of resistant to pain. The Los Illuminados was like a cult that viewed the parasite as this kind of like way to this religious gift almost. And so I'm wondering if they are infected with that parasite or a similar one.
Yep.
I'm just trying to find ways that this connects to the old Resident Evil games because I mean, we know that it is canon and it is a sequel. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to
That's
wait and
everything.
find out.
Yeah, that's everything we got from that demo. You can check out way more on this demo and more theories and everything about Resident Evil 7 right here on IGN.